Oh man, wow. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. This is incredible. The promotional screenshots have been released, and this is amazing. This is incredible.
There's too much we don't know.
We got pictures of the kids that Tabitha was seeing in her vision, seemingly in the underground caves where the monsters sleep in. The first thing I want you to notice is that there's seven kids placed on those sacrificial altars. And if you look at some of these other screenshots, you can see on the cave drawings that there's seven different symbols that for a long time, most of us thought they were graves and that the children were sacrificed to the entity for some reason. We don't know what's the reason just yet. But if you look at the other side of the entity, there's something that could be a different altar placed on the side. You can see the red figures dancing around the crops. So it's almost like they sacrificed the kids in order for Fromland to have fertile land and good weather. I don't know. It's hard to say for sure because it seems like the monsters don't eat, at least as far as what we've seen.
When I told you there was a chance that you could help the people here, it's right now.
Sarah is looking really messed up and she's struggling a lot in these photos. It seems that Boyd, Kenny, and Sarah are gonna go back to the dungeon that Boyd found Martin and the worms in. I'm guessing Boyd is looking for a way to stop the music box. Like we saw him contemplating about that in the trailer. So he's going back to where he first found them and hoping to maybe find the weakness or figure out a way for him to stop the melody.
How you get the tower? This is the bottle tree.
Can you take me there?
Taking Tabitha to the bottle tree. And yeah, I was talking about it in the last video, but the lighthouse is really far away. So the only way anybody could get there would be using a faraway tree. And here we are. It's crazy. The bottle tree itself is a fucking faraway tree. But what do these bottles represent? Is it a time traveling thing? Or do they lock up evil spirits? I've seen a lot of people talking about that being a tradition to lock up evil spirits. But I really want to see what Victor says about the bottles. Did Victor himself put the bottles there? And I also want to say that it took a long time for Boyd and Sarah to reach the bottle tree in the last season. So I don't really know how Tabitha and Victor got there so quickly in this episode. Unless the forest is looping, some is just like the road and it can loop you around somehow. And turns out that they didn't actually go that far. Tabitha is actually going to get to the lighthouse in this episode, which is, oh man, it's amazing. And you can see that there's some sort of machine that she's looking at, probably the same one that's shooting out the light or whatever. It looks like when Tabitha had that dream in season one, it was in fact a vision of what was going to happen in the future because this scene, as we see in the trailer, looks almost identical to what we saw in her dream in season one. And this is why I've always called them visions or premonitions. We already knew they were foretellings of the future because of Victor's drawings coming to life. And if you look at Tabitha's vision from season one, you can also see that there's nine different dates written on the lighthouse. If those dates symbolize when new kids were added onto that altar, then it could be that the boy in white managed to escape being trapped by the entity somehow. My assumption is that the boy in white escaped because Victor didn't get killed. It could also be because Victor's mother somehow escaped from land completely, and that action by itself meant that Victor's cycle can never be completed. Because, come on, if you add the boy in white onto that and compare it to the number of years on that vision, you have eight years counted off, and the ninth one could have been meant to be Victor or maybe Victor's sister. Maybe the girl that Tabitha and Victor saw in the dungeon was actually his sister, Eloise. That's interesting. But the thing is, we don't know when these drawings were made. It could be that there was always seven kids, even in the beginning, but I think the story is heavily leaning towards the idea that the entity wants to trap a child each cycle. More than likely, it's using the nightmares of the children to conjure up the monsters that it uses all over farmland. But anyways, I'm really hyped about this episode because I can't believe it. We are actually getting some answers. Wow.